In a potent piece of political propaganda this week, Republican Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene dubbed President Biden the Hamburglar, following false reports that the POTUS's proposal to reduce greenhouse gas emissions would call for a 90% reduction in beef consumption by the American public. Ms. Greene, who's vying for the comic book sobriquet Crazy Cunt, admitted in a statement that she longs for the days when presidents treated people like pieces of meat instead of bovine blocking her constituents. Hashtag Burgergate. Consequently, it also seems she prefers presidents who share Ronald McDonald's hairstyle as well as his eating habits. Well, if you wanted honesty, you've come to the wrong place. This is the Disinformed podcast. I'm Shane.
I'm John.
I'm Michael.
And I'm Courtney.
And man, that woman.
I could actually see that being 100% true.
Yeah, if only.
If that was in a topic, I wouldn't have been able to call. I wouldn't have called bullshit on any of it.
Yeah, exactly.
I think my mom said that to me on the phone earlier today, so I fully believe it.
Also, congratulations on being the only member of your family who is vaccinated at all. And congratulations on your final dose there, Miss Ma'am.
Full science over here.
There you go.
Yes, I'm watching it ooze out of your pores as we speak.
You feel more connected to the 5G?
Yeah, that's it.
Can we find better jokes now? I'm already done. Like I say the jokes now because it's like part of like the how's the weather today or like how's your day going? It's like
how y'all doing?
Just hanging out. Like now I'm programmed to be like, oh, you got vax? Cool. Are you autistic now? Oh, how's the 5G? But I feel like there has to be better jokes hanging around there somewhere.
Almost certainly there are better jokes, but whether or not
I don't think I'm qualified to make it. But
yeah, exactly.
So how's the bodily holocaust of your own making going on?
Oh, it's going perfect.
That's really not comparable at all, and it's kind of inappropriate. Yeah, that's America for you.
Well, I'm surprised, for one, that Courtney didn't have to sign any special papers or jump through any hoops for Arizona to allow a woman to be vaccinated.
Yeah, I mean, women aren't allowed to make decisions.
Yeah,
We've learned this.
That's very evident as of this week.
That comes next week, is the waivers to get vaccines, yeah.
The coming seems to be the issue, but as something that is about to erupt inappropriately, Michael wants to dovetail off of this, I'm sure.
Yeah, you were really, really hot.
Oh my God. So, here I am sitting at a bar, minding my own business. It's been a long day, and I figured I'd catch up with the news because I've been out running errands all day. So I'm like, all right, what has happened today? Arizona has signed a bill. Okay. Ducey has been doing that a lot as of late. All right.
Nothing bad could possibly happen with Ducey signing legislation.
Yes, yeah, exactly. He's been signing a lot of bills actually as of late, which is odd, but whatever. And so I look a little bit more, and I'm like, oh, we signed an anti-abortion bill. All right, cool. That sucks, but it's stupid. But all right, cool. Oh, it's. I had scripted this whole thing, and now I'm having a fucking brain fart, and I hate my life right now.
Well, at least you're not having a migraine this week, yeah.
Yeah, I can't blame this on anything other than my actual.
You can take your bit from one. We will let you do the work. I'll let you edit the episode this week.
Okay. Oh. Thank
what
you.
A glorious gift
Thank
you've given.
I appreciate that. Now, because of that whole...
But see, I'm so afraid of the gift you give me.
Oh, it's because of me, right?
I don't belong here, and I'm not well.
Well,
so
God damn it.
Here's a burrito.
If you wanted honesty, but I sit there and I read, oh, anti-abortion bill passed in Arizona. I'm like, okay, all right, well, let's see what's in there. First thing I read, and the main idea behind it is that, okay, you can't abort if it has some sort of genetic anomaly. All right, that's not the worst
I think that's the governor
thing.
Trying to protect his own interests.
Exactly. But then
What do you mean I can't fuck my own family?
What is this, Alabama?
I mean, if they would have thrown me out with the bathwater after the dog delivered me, then I'm sure that no one would have succeeded in living in this state.
I never asked to be born. Thank you, Doug Ducey.
I like that you've turned him into Oswald Cobblepot from Batman Returns.
That's the fucking plot of Batman Returns.
Uh-huh. Yep. I'm gonna teach her my French flipper trick.
So I see that, and I'm like, okay, that isn't the worst thing that could happen. It could get worse. And then I read a little further, and it does. So apparently now in Arizona, fetuses are persons. They count as persons for legal civil rights.
They can vote for the Republican Party.
Yes, exactly. And let's see. The father or the maternal grandparents can sue the person. State funding has been pulled from any sort of organization that supports abortion. We also have other things like, the bill also bans delivery of Plan B or other such abortion-inducing drugs.
You can't get it through the mail either. Yeah, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, it's going to have really, really, like, no harmful side effects. You know, people aren't going to be, seeking things in shady areas now out of desperation. That's not what's going to happen.
And I'm going to be a little bit forward here, and if you guys want me to cut this, I will. But I think the people that do these backdoor or back alley abortions should just leave their children on children. That is wrong. It technically in Arizona is right because they are persons, but I don't agree with the laws that are in Arizona. So these fetuses or unwanted bunches of cells.
I appreciate you not gendering them. Thank you.
Oh, of course. I don't gender children until they know what gender is.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Because it is their right. But anyway, they should leave these bundles of cells on the steps of the Capitol so that the Capitol can pay for them to be incinerated or buried, because that is another part of the bill that I had forgotten to mention.
Hold on a second. Can you say that slower?
Another aspect of this bill that was passed was that if you do get an abortion and you manage to jump through all of those legal hurdles that were previously mentioned, you now have to pay for this bundle of cells, fetus, what have you, to be cremated or buried, which either is at least several $1,000s to do so.
Listen, we're bereaved, but we're not saps. Got Ralphs around here? Or...
Oh my god!
I'm sorry.
I know you don't get the reference, but the person I wanted to laugh laughed, so I'm good.
That's all that matters.
Before we take the lid off the Folgers can here and let someone who's
this
qualified to talk about
fire.
it. There's only one person in this room right now that's qualified to talk on this subject, and before we pass it there, I will say that now in Arizona is a fantastic time, if you do live in Arizona, to go to the Satanic Temple's website and look up satanic ritual abortion, get that ritual down pat, and if you are a woman, just know that an organization will back you 110% and take motherfuckers to court to protect your religious freedoms that include the right to an abortion included in that so-called religion. Courtney, how do you feel? You are the only one qualified.
Yeah.
No, I really love listening to white men talk about things that can only happen to my body. It's my favorite pastime. It's why I go to the doctor so much.
You're in the right state.
You are in the right state.
I have never been offended by something. Wait, what is the meme?
I ever.
I have never been offended by something I 100% agreed with. Wait,
sure.
I think fuck that. I don't care. Courtney,
kill
talk.
it before it grows, Chief.
I think
pay for the burial.
And this is what I was going to say before. The sad thing is they can continue to try to make abortions illegal, but they're just making safe abortions illegal. Somebody is always going to find a way around it. So I think really it's more of a disservice to people who need it medically, because a lot of the stuff they put in place was medically related. So, let alone other circumstances that are awful and an abortion may be needed. Medically, you're putting up walls and charging doctors and going to court and having all this stuff happen. That's just a shit show. It's terrible, but I think it's going to get overturned.
I hope so. I really do.
I just don't.
The thing...
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, please. Finish your thought.
I feel like at this point, like, Doug Ducey has to be in on his own joke. You know what I mean? Like, this guy has been passing just the most asinine. It's almost like every week at this point, it's like, oh, someone gave Doug Ducey a pen.
It's kind of like laughing in front of a firing squad, basically.
Basically, yeah. Like, there's no future for him in this state.
There's no future for him, period. I mean, did you hear? Well, I think it was on Monday. Because he didn't back Trump's.
Trump's
You know what?
fine.
He's Trump.
It rhymes with scrum. I'll let it play.
You give Donna the respect that they goddamn deserve.
Oh, it's she, they now, huh?
She,
I'm
they?
just changing it any way I want to.
All right, that's fair. This is our canon.
All right,
She's
canon.
they.
Donna Trump is she, they.
She is she, they. Okay.
All right, use the proper pronouns.
Fair. No, it's
depending
fair.
on the day of the week.
They had come forward in I think it was on Monday as of this recording, that because Ducey did not support any allegations of voter fraud, they will be backing any Democratic candidate that will be coming forward to run for the 2022 Arizona Senate race, providing Ducey runs as Republican in that race.
So Donna is backhandedly saying, even though I identify this way, in more way than one, I'm going to support your adversary?
Yes.
Because fuck you, that's why?
Yes.
That's awesome. Yeah. Actually, that's the only thing that I'll ever say that I really appreciate about Donald Trump.
Oh, yes. How vindictive she is.
That is some
when pressed to
high school drama bullshit. And I like it.
There's no party loyalty. It's just
it's like, did you live in this country for the past 4 years, my friend? Because I think that's been painfully evident from the day it took office.
Not to make this a politic show, but
too late.
There's a meme that I saw, and it's how Americans view like the political system, and it's like a scale, and on the left is Democrat, and on the right is Republican, and then centrist, and it's all balanced. Like there's Biden on the left, there's Trump on the right, and I don't remember who was in the fucking center, but then it was like what it actually is, and it's a majority of those people all on the right side. Like the left really doesn't exist.
Yeah.
If you look at other political systems in the world, we don't really have a true Democratic Party. And then when we do have it, people cry socialism in Walmart and shit on the floor.
And that's just a normal Monday.
And I'm Michael. Speaking of shitting, I feel like you guys should really, really give me a round of applause here, because I need to be loved and celebrated. And also tangentially, it's kind of an abortion, because I took I pooped outside of the house. Like I was at work and I had to poop really bad, and I'm a nervous shitter. But I guarantee, guys, I lost 10 pounds at work at 12 a.m. 2 days ago.
First, I didn't know that you were a nervous shitter and that you did not shit outside of the house.
I try my level best not to. Shane probably knows this about me.
Yeah, I back your play, but still.
In that case, congratulations.
Thank you.
That is cause for celebration.
I can count on one hand in the past 4 years when I've had a satisfying bowel movement outside of my own home.
That seems equal parts unhealthy and equal parts sad.
Vacations are a nightmare for me.
I don't think I've ever described a bowel movement as satisfying.
What?
Well, when you've been holding it for several days and you're still
talking about.
3 or 4 days from going to your beloved home toilet, you gotta let it. You gotta release. You need that release.
Home is where the squatty potty and the bidet is.
Man, the two of you sexualize anything going into and out of your rectum to such a degree that I'm starting to be a little intimidated.
Do you want to resume the game we were playing before we started rolling on our favorite Michael being a dog moments?
What?
Yeah, sure. That's I think that's reasonable. We can get there.
Well, we were talking before we rolled about how Michael.
We're talking about interesting, coalescing of human beings in social circles and situations and desperate times. So we were playing a show at a really wonderful bar. And I was having kind of a cataclysmic meltdown emotionally just due to the circumstances of the evening, which was grand. And Michael from my understanding, because I did not see this directly, but he started attempting to sling some game at a young lady who performed on the bill prior to our band taking the stage. And Michael, I believe you can probably take it from here.
It was, in hindsight, pretty disgusting. So, and let me
I'm offended for her, firstly.
No, on my end, she was a saint.
Can't be helped.
So I order a beer. I'm sitting there drinking it, and then she, after her set, orders a beer, and she's like, she's debating ordering a beer, and she's like, I don't know if I want to get this one or this one. And I'm like, do you want to try it? I've never met her, never talked to her in my life. I'm like, I've already had a couple of sips of this beer. I'm like, hey, do you want to try it? And she's like, you don't really know me. And I'm like,
I let anyone spit in my mouth.
Fuck it. Try it. Sure enough, she tried it. I think she liked the beer and she ordered her own pint. I don't remember that part. But just the fact that I was like, I don't care who you are. Go ahead, try it.
That's it? That's the whole story?
Yeah, that's the whole story.
Things that happened pre-COVID that would never happen right now.
So how did you get around to the denouement of this story then?
Well, the fact that I offered the beer was enough to start talking, and then that's when we chatted it up and apparently had a date later on.
Well, you were crowing about her to an embarrassing amount. Like you would come into my bar and be like, "Oh yeah, I think I'm gonna actually have a date with this girl," and and Courtney happens to be a friend of a friend, right?
Yep. My best friend is married to the bassist of her band.
So I was hearing from Courtney's side being like, yeah, it's probably not going to happen. And then I heard from you at a separate, and this is within probably the same 2 days, being like, I really think something's going to happen. And Courtney's like, yeah, and that's not going to happen. And then meanwhile, you have my favorite Michael post breakup, like rebound Michael, is you shut down the bar while I was working, and it was like the old crew. So it's Logan, Ambrish, which is his roommate, and I think that the plan was after we shut down the bar, we were going to go back to Logan's house and watch a movie and have some beers. Like actually kind of like hang out and party, right?
Yeah.
We were going to start the orgy.
Becky's friend was also in attendance.
This one too.
And she So when we get to Logan's house, everyone except for me and maybe I think a couple of the people aren't entirely sober. I was working, so I got to see things through clear eyes. But we're watching a movie, and I see Michael and this gal really, really cozy on the couch. Which, I mean, good on you, Michael. Like it was a good play, and it worked for you. You ended up going home with this girl, and I remember thinking like, damn, I didn't know he had it in him. I'm really impressed. Like, way to go, buddy. And then I heard that all you did was
the joke is that he didn't have it in her.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I heard tell that it was just
okay. I guess if we really want to say that, yeah, sure.
I was going to say, why is this being brought up?
Yeah, I don't know.
Edit it out.
Anyway,
Christ, John.
Are we not going for blood?
No.
Oh, then edit it out.
All right, hold on a second. Okay,
dude,
just
I thought No, I thought as bad as we were going to get is you didn't tell the postscript to the other story yet, which I thought you were going to give as opposed to me.
Apparently, it's the roast of me tonight.
I'm
a bad person.
The earth is healing.
Who would have thought?
The fucking thing is, Shane and I, and even Courtney's probably at this. Actually, no, I think Courtney's pure. As far as stories that we've told on air,
Her offended face is great.
As far as stories that we've told on air, Shane and I have shared things that we should never like. We are disgusting fucking
That's
people.
true.
So if there's one. You know what? I take it back. I am not sorry that I went for blood because I want to sexualize Michael. I think we need to normalize sexualizing Michael today.
You want to hear the morning after?
Yes, I love this fucking story. I would love to hear this story.
Fine. This will be quick.
And again,
okay.
No,
so,
we didn't
Yeah,
give
it
any
sounds about right for you.
We didn't give any fucking
quick
names.
in my eyes. Okay. Oh, sorry. You were talking about something else quick. Yeah, so it took 5 seconds. Anyway, the next morning, she told me this previously that she had someone coming in to check the AC or something like that. I can't remember exactly what the reason, but she had someone coming in. So I was still there the next morning. And so this person comes in, and then we start almost role-playing almost as a couple for some reason, and I'm not really sure why. It was cool. I was fine with it. I rolled with it. But then she dropped me back off because she drove me to her house. I left my car there. She dropped me back at my car, and I didn't give my number because I forgot. Because I'm a literal piece of shit. I had no way of contacting her for no reason other than I just fucking forgot.
Misconnection.
And so, yes, the mists of connection, the most mist of connections. And so weeks passed and I had no idea how to contact her. And I assumed by that point she had already moved on. I think I tried reaching out to her through like Instagram or something like that.
Maybe. Yeah,
and it was terrible.
The best part is that she started referring to you as her dead husband afterwards.
I had no idea wow.
Who is this? Pray tell. Just mute this.
I'll
just
censor
let
the
Shane
name.
in on the joke.
This is. I don't know if you've met her.
Okay, I can't say I'm.
I like her.
Amazing.
Oh, she's a great person. Okay, stop using the name. That makes it harder for me to edit it out.
Edit it out.
Okay, now John, are you gonna? Do you not remember the remainder of the story here, or?
Shane, you give my memory far too much credit.
You make a fine. So okay, well, Michael, I've been holding off on this because I didn't want to tell you.
Oh no!
But since Courtney's here and is in on this joke, so we finish that gig, right? I go out into the parking lot, and said individual, who we can name or not name if you really want to get into the.
No, let's not name.
Yeah.
That's it.
I'm just
Future
saying.
me is already going to hate his life.
No, I feel
this,
we
so.
all. I had a feeling we already said it, but I think Courtney was ambiguous. So good. Okay, good.
Okay.
This individual came out and started talking to me as I was loading equipment in and out. I don't know any of the stuff had happened with you earlier, and so I'm going through the motions, and she's being very flirtatious. I, unfortunately, by the nature of who I am as a human being, am also, regardless of context, to the point that I got yelled at. Like, Delaney got angry at me at one point because she was like, I was flirting with her in front of Logan, and I was like, I'm a dog, I don't care. This is how I live my life.
It's how I talk. It's just my vernacular.
It's just locker room talk. It's fine.
It said I was 26 years of like not having sex, but I could do everything up. So like I enjoyed flirting. That's one of the joys of life, is just, experiencing it. And I never pulled the trigger. It's just a fun practice to get into. Witty repartee. So I'm doing this. Now, furthermore, John will also attest to this, that I have a number of stories based on the fact that I withheld myself sexually, where I would actually antagonize and taunt people in the midst of situations where they thought we were going to be getting somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And people have been present and seen this happen. It's a shitty thing to do, but just, anyway, this is not an attempt to be braggarty, but saying that it's become learned behavior. So she got real close to my face in the course of our having a conversation and was kind of in the motion. And so I went right up against her face and then turned and walked away and started doing other things. Because Sam is telling me, she's our friend. Like, we know her. She's really great. And Sam, the first thing out of her mouth is, you're totally her type. So, like, she just got out of a relationship and she's like, stay away from her. And I was like, oh, okay. And I'm with Melissa at this time, so I'm a good boy and I don't do anything. But that was my little fun moment where I was just like, psych. And then I just went on about my business. And so I kind of went to John as I was walking out. I was like, keep this woman away from me. Because I was like, she's very attractive and I'm very tempted. So I'm just going to, get myself out of the scenario and go. The next week, I'm being told that Michael has been crowing about this exchange with this young lady and all these other things. And I'm going, dude, you and I could have been Eskimo brothers if circumstances would have been different.
Whoa.
But if I'm her type, you most certainly are fucking not.
No.
And so that was the whole run of the story, is that entire time, Sam was basically telling me, do not talk to her, get the hell away from her. And Tony basically echoed the same sentiment of just like, yeah, dude, not a good idea. You sing, she was overly complimentary, you should take the hint. And I was like, oh, no, I'm just going to walk like wide-eyed into a really bad situation and pretend that I don't get that she was throwing out signals, and I'm just oblivious to it. So there's the denouement to the story from Shane's perspective, and I never wanted to mention it because we talked about it multiple times, including prior to a podcast roll at one point, if I recall. Yeah. So I was like, sorry.
I just got a text from Becky because she's downstairs. just pray that never gets into your podcast.
I will cut enough to where she will never have to be upset. And if I am ever told to cut it by her or Becky, I will. I respect her that much as a person that I will obviously cut all that if I need to.
Well, now your attempt to get re-ingratiated with this person was you just dropped a random message on a social network of like, hey, wasn't trying to hit it and quit it. I'm just a moron.
Yeah.
But did you not know that she was literally there with Becky?
No, I did.
And you couldn't have contacted John or Becky to get her
I
info?
Did.
I don't like to give people's information out.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not me being a dick. I just don't feel it's appropriate.
Yeah, which is understandable. It was my fault.
In that context, I would have felt pretty scummy. Because what that would have entailed would have been me going to Becky being like, hey, give me your friend's number so that I can get
No.
Which would not have been
No.
Oh.
No. Linda, listen.
Uh-oh.
What you have to do is just, if you're being a bro, and you and I have been around each other for long enough, John,
no.
Just go to your wife and say, like, so give me the lowdown on this whole situation. Does this person never want to see Michael again? Because if so, let's freeze him out, but make him feel horrible about it. But, if she actually enjoyed the circumstances, which apparently, given your story, the context would be no, like, help a brother out, for heaven's sakes.
Yeah.
Well, and the move is, too, like, whenever I've had a guy ask for one of my friends' numbers, I'll ask her, do you want his number? And if she doesn't want it, I tell him, oh, sorry, like, she's not into it. And then we just end it there.
Well,
yeah, and no one gets hurt.
Well, then let me say, Michael, I'm sorry that I didn't take that adorable little baby cock in my hands, give it a little mwah, and try and see if she wanted you to have her number. I apologize. That wasn't very brotherly or lovely of me.
It was not.
So
That's
I apologize.
Poor form, friend.
And also, to do a dismount to this bit, we have dragged you through the dirt for like 15 minutes. And thanks for being a good sport. Obviously, we kind of, sort of, maybe love you, but maybe would give our numbers to you.
Well, I appreciate that. I will just say, past Michael is a major dick. So I hate past Michael. But
I don't think you really were. Maybe a dick to your own standards, but from an outside perspective looking in, I don't think you really acted like a dick. I just think that sometimes you just didn't pick up on cues.
Oh, I don't pick up on my own cues,
exactly.
Let alone other people's. So,
Michael,
you don't pick up on barbecues.
No.
Well, speaking of things being dragged through the dirt and fucked poorly. Last week was a real humdinger of a goddamn episode, and not because the topic was failing. So I'm gonna, give a little, if I can get myself any deeper than that previous story, apparently, because Courtney was just hating me the entire time I was speaking. So I'm not shocked that this is going to continue. But I was functionally dead last week. I know Michael was functionally dead last week. And we did the episode a disservice for as grand as the topic was. And a contributing factor to my mindset is, and John can somewhat attest to this, I'm having kind of a crisis of faith in my life relative to having seen the meteoric rise of, somebody who I'm no longer associated with and having to kind of cope with that mentally. And it has saturated the remainder of my existence, in particular how I interact with other people. So I have a really swelling inferiority complex that is just getting worse by the day. So I look at our statistics because this is kind of an important thing for me to do because I hate myself. And I, as we've mentioned on the show, have a real feast or famine kind of situation where it's either one of the highest rated episodes we have or the bottom of the barrel. And that's usually where I live. So I've reached the conclusion that I am out of touch to such an extreme degree that nothing I can present on this show is going to inspire our audience because, to give due credit and praise, Courtney's episode got more downloads in its first 2 days than mine got in the entire first week and a half.
No.
Now, that's obviously attributable to the fact that the topic is either something not translatable or there are people who just hate me on principle, and I don't disagree with you there, friends. But obviously, I don't think it's necessarily that because we don't really go in sequence. So I'm extrapolating a lot of really bad nonsense from this and going, maybe I've run my course. Maybe I'm just going to officially get to the John point where I'm like, you know what? I put in effort to do research for something that is not paying dividends to the audience because obviously they're not interested. Or if they are, I'm making sure they're not by the end of the episode. So I'm really like causing this mental degradation to occur, which then is reinforced by our talking about the After Darks and our performance there and numbers that we're getting and whether we are really producing quality or quantity. And whether we want to continue these things. So this is why I wanted to lean into this conversation. This is not a pity me, please assuage my ego and tell me I'm a good boy. This is more of saying, maybe we're better served by having, me just do what I do and MC the thing. And, Michael's argument of, the entertaining episodes are where I explain something and you all just ceaselessly mock me and everybody enjoys that. And, Courtney's here as another researcher, so we can slide her. So all these things are kind of rumbling around in my head as last week is going into effect. And then it was no fun to speak. And John got offended, and for probably good reason, right off the bat when he walked into the room. So it was just like a recipe for a really shitty show last week, in my estimation, from my own mental state. And then I listened back to it, and none of those things really manifested on the show. And it felt like one of the regular old episodes for us. And then I started looking at researching topics again, and I got out of my own head, and I was like, oh, this is actually fun. I really do enjoy this. So, I'm obviously schizophrenic, and this is just something everybody in my life learns to deal with. John in particular has fallen victim to my folly more often than not, but that is kind of my spear thrust into this conversation. And now I will allow the rest of you to weigh in, and then we can start kind of furthering the discussion.
No,
as someone that has, sorry, John, I'm just gonna
go for it.
Jump in.
Fuck.
As someone that has had multiple crises of faith, crises of faith.
Mm-hmm.
It's Chrysler, actually.
As someone that has had multiple Chryslers of faith, I agree. Especially when
I'm glad I'm a piece of shit. Thank you.
Well.
No, he didn't.
I
He
didn't
call
say
you.
you were. You projected the fact that I know that I'm a piece of shit onto you.
He didn't call it.
Don't try to reach the
He
bottom
didn't call
before
you a
me,
jive
friend.
turkey, Shane. He called you a cocksucker.
He called me a honky maffa, and
but especially when you have what you think is a piece de resistance, like a really good episode. I really enjoyed researching Twitch Plays Pokemon, especially because it has
You're
that.
gonna be spit on my microphone.
I see exactly. I can use actual hard data.
said hard.
Especially because I remember off the top of my head what the first week's downloads of that was.
Right.
I thought I had an enjoyable time researching it because I had a lot of nostalgia with what happened.
Right, and you love it.
Yes, but the presentation of it, I feel, wasn't that great. Just because, like, John had some tangential relation to Pokemon because he understands Pokemon, but you had nothing to grasp on yourself, Shane. And so I felt like the episode itself wasn't that great. I felt that it was almost cringeworthy in retrospect. But seeing other people's responses to it, as in, like, we had a decent number of downloads the first week, made me feel like, am I really overanalyzing how I approach these episodes? And also to the point, for another example, just digging into the more recent episodes, the Black Eyed Children. I couldn't finish that episode when I was listening through on my own while I was at work. Once I got into the last part when I talked about the SCP stuff, I'm like, this is too fucking dry. This is disgusting. I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear myself talk anymore.
Okay.
So we
are our own harshest critics.
Indeed.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. Yeah. All right. That's what I'm trying to get at, in that you could be overly analytical about your own presentation, about your own content that you're doing on this podcast. But if people aren't as receptive. Yes. If people aren't as receptive, or even if they are more, the Twitch Plays Pokemon actually got a decent number of downloads on its first week, which just blew my mind, because just listening to it, I initially, when I was editing it, I thought, this isn't that interesting. I thought it was boring, because I had to be like, okay, let me skip this. Okay, let me skip that. Oh, okay, let me explain this. Let me do all these other things. It, like, you had mentioned that it felt like heavy water. To just use that as the baseline for just
right.
utter, I wouldn't say trash, but I would say utter banality, where it was just, there wasn't a lot of interesting content with that episode.
Okay.
There was a lot of content.
You know what both episodes have in common is that it's a lot of just data.
Yes.
You know,
yeah, that's fair. Yeah.
And that's...
Oh, sorry.
I was going to say the pilot for what ended up being this show, just flipped and reversed, was you and another science nerd talking about data and expecting the listenership to know what the fuck that was. And it felt like a science class, and I don't think many people casually want to listen to a sciencey podcast.
Right.
Like, that's a very good point, and that's why I drastically overhauled my episodes, my topics. That's why there's never going to be a Flat Earth Part 3.
Thank fucking God.
Boo.
Boobs.
Yeah, exactly. The Earth is actually shaped like a breast, and that is my theory.
Sandbags?
Yeah, exactly.
Man, I am such a happier member of the Milky Way galaxy now.
But anyway, I don't really remember the point that I was getting at, because I got distracted.
I think you were just commiserating.
But essentially, yes, I'm
we
commiserating.
all have this feeling.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm trying to gauge, I think.
Well, Courtney, you're the newbie. You know, like, you came in pretty late to this podcast, so I feel like your input is going to be
more relevant,
almost more valuable, because you came as a listener, now as a contributor.
True. I would say right off the bat, if Shane stops doing episodes, like, that'll be a big disservice to the podcast, because I think Shane has had some of my favorite episodes because of the way he presents topics.
Same.
Agreed.
I think, like, Michael, I think Michael has improved immensely, and I think as he dials in more on his topics and it's stuff that he likes but is also relevant, so like the Little Nas X episode was great. That was a great episode. That was really fun.
You have a really good point, because I feel like when Michael just sticks to current affairs, or like if you're like, hey Michael, sick 'em boy, and you give him like something that's happening and trending, that Michael, you do a really good job at like going down the rabbit hole.
Mm-hmm.
But when you go into the past, you kind of get a little wobbly.
because I just love history so much,
Fucking
and
nerd.
I want to tell about every single facet. Like, oh, let me tell you about his birthday.
Okay.
Oh boy.
Let me. I think, not to completely just cut this off, but to put this more succinctly in a way that more adequately expresses what I was really trying to dial down on, as opposed to this being a pity me, tell me how great I am moment, was. When we initially started discussing the podcast, the idea was we would talk about things we had an innate and profound knowledge of that we could then organically lie about. And I feel like the further that we go afield from that, we're running out of topics that we know organically and that we've empirically experienced. So now it's turned into, let me recite something that I read, or, we'll do some research and things of that nature. So if I'm doing that, most of the paranormal stuff that I have investigated per se has fallen far from the Bell Witch discussion. And, like Loftus Hall was woeful and did not get much attention. And I go, okay, well, maybe it's just that. And so I start looking at the topics, and I think maybe it's just that I'm interested in the far too esoteric or things that are nuanced, because if I'm on a podcast where I'm hosting and talking about the things I love, I spent an hour and 45 minutes talking with one of my students about basketball today, stretching back to my love of the NBA of the 80s and into the 90s. And we got real nuanced of ridiculous stuff where I was talking about Ronnie Cycli backing up Alonzo Mourning on the Heat. Like, this is something that all of you are giving me glazed looks.
Oh, yeah, I just died a little bit.
You have no frame of reference. And I was like, these are the things that are weird. I can talk about professional wrestling off the cuff ad nauseum, as you've seen, for no good reason. So some of the things that I'm passionate about are not going to translate well to air. We might occasionally, the Marty Jannetty murder mystery being an exception, but most of the time, the stuff's not going to get infused here because I realize probably not going to get the audience happy and excited. So that's mostly what I'm revisiting is it becoming anathema for me to just pull up a random Wikipedia, try to infuse research from other things, and talk about something I'm not necessarily passionate or innately knowledgeable about? And does it do us a disservice to create subpar content that way? So then I started getting into, what is our goal with the podcast? Are we trying to get angle for downloads, or are we really trying to have fun and just talk to each other and do the things that are entertaining to us? And I have a lot more fun getting into Kevin the drug-sniffing dog or Gallerilla Godot. But then we're looking at the same thing where, like, the After Dark's not doing gangbuster numbers. Not to talk shop on air here, but, like, folks are really interested in the fan fiction. Like, the numbers are dramatically different between those two. So, like, okay, we figured out what the audience likes, at least. So then should that start to tailor what we do with the show going forward, since we're almost to the end of our second season, call it. So now that John's gotten kind of that's mostly what I was trying to get to for an organic conversation amongst us is, what's the goal here? What are we really trying to continue doing? Because we do get exhausted after a while.
Oh, yeah.
I think we had the same conversation last year about this time, right before the pandemic.
Yeah. So it's really, I'm glad that you worded it how you did, because long story short, finally, Jonah, Courtney's sexy husband,
calm down.
He stopped by my house earlier so I could give him herpes and someone else's credit card that they left at the bar. I like when I get Shane.
The herpes is free, but the card's got a surcharge.
One of his buddies left a credit card at our bar, so I snagged it for him so he could come pick it up. And we were standing outside and just shooting the shit for a couple. And he was saying, like, I heard tonight's going to be a fun episode. And I was like, oh, yeah, it's kind of going to be like I didn't say it, but now I'm thinking about how PlayStation does State of Play, where they show you, like, what's coming up. So we're kind of having like a State of Play episode right now.
Yeah.
And what I was telling him is that before the pandemic, we were making content just because we were on a schedule, and then when the pandemic hit, we had more time on our hands to invest. So what originally started as maybe like 2 hours out of your day turned into 4 hours, because we batch our weeks, And I was just kind of like illuminating a little bit, just being like, well, things are different now because thankfully there's light, like things are starting, there's a little bit of hope on the horizon. Things are changing for the better, even if it's just slow steps, but it makes all of us very introspective, as demonstrated by Shane, where now it's like, okay, well, what am I spending my time on? Because now I have less time again.
Yeah.
Like you're
prioritize.
You're cresting back in. Like we got to sit on the couch 24/7 for the better part of a year. And now, like, I just worked 50 fucking hours. Like it kind of leaves you feeling a little burnt. But what the podcast has always been, and it's what my vote is, and this is a really long way of saying it, is that the fun is more important to me than worrying about arbitrary numbers. To a point, like I think that the show proper, like what we're doing right now, like what Shane was saying about After Dark, where originally, guys, what After Dark was is that we would end roll and we'd still be slap happy and we'd be warmed up and silly and shit. And at a certain degree, we're like, fuck, none of that made it onto the episode. And that was really funny shit. And then what happens, and I hope this isn't too much of like a word vomit, is what happens now, you put your podcast face back on and dive into the After Dark. It's not organic anymore. Like the conversation, for the most part. And I know that's a really broad statement, so don't.
No, it's I see what you're saying.
Seems reasonable,
but you know what I mean. Like you. It's not that you're acting when you're on air, but you're more focused on what you're saying, and it's not as it's not as organic. I think when we've had the best times, in my opinion, is what Shane was saying. When you're really passionate, like when it's Galrilla, and or like the Exorcist myths or Birds Aren't Real was a lot of fun, like, or the Satanic Temple. Not to just name my own episodes, but I'm just saying like what
the things that stand out to you.
What Shane's saying, like when you have a deep interest and knowledge base on the thing, and at the end of the day, like I've thought about it before because I love these freeform episodes. It's my favorite kind of podcast to listen to in general. Disinformed to me is, if you take the name of the podcast and get really fucking stupid meta for a second, it's just a bunch of people who are ill-informed about life. It's not just topics. We are just disinformed in general, going through. So no matter what we present on, no matter what the topic is, whether or not we're leavening in lies, like at the end of the day, once we stop recording and we go about our lives, we are still woefully uninformed to certain aspects, the esoteric corners that we have no ideas about, like Michael and dating, like
or me and anything that has to deal with dealing with other people,
or Michael and the female orgasm.
I still say it doesn't exist.
What's a clitoris?
Clitoris hardly, or damn near.
Clitoris, hit or miss, but
oh no,
I can find her tits.
Clitoris? You mean smaller tits?
Pelvic
what
nipple.
Shane's saying. I'm stealing that band name for sure. I feel like looking at what works and refining it as we go forward is really a really smart play. It's very nice slapstick way to do it on air.
As I said, this is as interesting as anything else we normally talk about, and in fact, it kills two birds with one stone, because we're going to talk about it regardless. So we might as well just document it.
And in my opinion, like looking at the fact that like the fanfics work to a degree, Michael, is where you should invest your time. Like what honestly you could do. You could have just one YouTube episode a week, and it could just be the fanfic. And then what we were doing on After Darks is basically just the episode anyway. And if you wanted to throw in more Klostermans, or randomly throw in a Klosterman at the beginning or end of an episode, like that's what we didn't we used to do Fuck, Marry, Kills, and
we used to start tacking stuff on the end of the episode to keep a little levity.
I think we've kind of proven that for the most part, people don't really. I say people again, broad fucking statements. The numbers would show that the After Dark isn't doing that well, but the fanfics, depending on the fanfic, are cool. So you learn and you revise, and what we were talking on our message or group app about maybe doing batch fanfic recordings so that you could just release them when you want, so that when Michael needs to desperately go lay down for 17 hours to avoid the bees in his brain, that we don't miss a week.
Yeah, and we've all kind of approached this from different trajectories, and we are constantly trying to refine our methods, contrary to what you might think, dear listener. But it really is a concerted effort to, one, try to keep this fun and engaging and sort of enlightening for us, and I don't want this to feel like a slog. And we talked about this with the Damn Jams and recording that podcast. Like, when it feels like work, I'm going to get out of it, because there's far too little time in my day where I can go about doing things that are important. And I want to prioritize the things that make me feel enlivened and enriched afterwards, and not like I want to just go slam my head into a brick wall, which is no offense to my bandmates. We just, all have kind of a different appreciation for certain things, and, we have to stay on topic sometimes, but that's just an unfortunate byproduct of my mouth running. So it's mostly looking at our approach of saying, nearly 200 nearly 100 episodes in running through years of, if you're not interested in the nonsense after talk after the show, we don't need to dedicate time if it's really not, tickling anybody's ivories. And, if folks are really that interested, they'll catch up. There's a playlist of a lot of stuff, and we got that full box of Klostermans absolutely documented, and that's a fun series arc for that.
Really is, if anything, even if it just, if you approach it as like this, those are the Klosterman episodes and not even After Darks, then I am still kind of in disbelief that we finished the hypotheticals, because that when we started the hypotheticals, it was like, okay, this is going to take us a very long time, and then you blink and Michael's hair's gray.
What?
I saw you at the bar this weekend, you silly sack of shit. You got some
salt and pepper dreamboat, you.
Yeah, you got some gray in that mane.
Well, shit.
But I think if you really wanted to keep an additional video component, I think it'd be more interesting to turn it more towards book reviews, movie reviews, make it more focused in that sense, rather than using that time to just kind of say 3 things about what we just recorded and then do the Klosterman. Like, we all watched this movie. Let's talk about this movie. We're all going to read this book. Let's talk about that. And I think keeping it more topical gives it more direction. One of my favorite podcasts does a segment every week called Sip, Smoke, Read, where they just talk about like the beers they've been drinking, if they've been smoking cigars, and like what they've been reading. And that's probably one of my favorite parts of the show, because it gives more insight on them, but it also provides like recommendations for stuff that I may have not heard of before.
I dig that.
Okay.
A brilliant idea.
I like that, yeah.
Yep. And kind of something we were really doing ultimately in the episodes where we do get off topic on an After Dark and spend an hour as we're talking about the things we are passionate about. And we do get tangentially into movies a lot. We do talk about what we read a lot. So if we compartmentalize that and kind of help that to transition out is a really good idea. So this is why we're having this conversation, folks, is see what pops up. Or doesn't, in Michael's case.
I swear this never happens, okay? It's always good, but just tonight, for some reason.
In a rather alarming and welcome development, we have a new listener to the My Immortal fanfic.
Oh, no. The thing you said that would never happen happened?
Did. Rebecca has entered the podcast. And... gosh, I'd have to scroll too far to see. Well, I guess Michael could edit out the silence while I find what she actually said.
Yes.
He's not doing enough work this week. It's fine.
It's easy when it's all silent because there's no transition.
Well, she originally started listening on YouTube and then was frustrated because of the ads and stuff. I was like, it's on Bandcamp, which, by the way, it's on Bandcamp.
It is on Bandcamp, free for nothing.
We have ads? I forgot YouTube does ads even if you aren't monetized.
She goes, oh my god, I'm listening to your My Immortal. What the fuck is this? It's so good, but it's bad. And then, quote, I was feeling kind of depressed, so I slit one of my wrists.
If I had $1 for every time I heard the first part, not the second part.
It gets way, way, way more rough, so I said, if I can find the scripts, I'll share it with you so you can see the spelling. She goes, it really is something. And I went looking for the scripts, and all I could find was later entries. So I was like, all I can find is like chapter 40. And she's like, I'll let you know when I get there. I was like, you guys do a good job, though, with the material being what it is.
Thanks.
Hell
She
froze
won't
over.
hear this, but thank you.
Do it, you won't.
And here's a reminder that Potterless, fucking come for me. I will throw hands. I will slap you harder than a twisted tea. Unless you want to collaborate, in which case, again, I think that your branding, your whole thing is just amazingly well done. But if you don't love me, then you can fucking kill yourself. Thank you.
Hiya.
Hiya. No.
Yeah.
I finished Everything's Eventual, by the way.
Yay!
Get the hell out of here. Tell me everything about it.
Wow, I didn't expect that kind of follow-up.
He's like, I didn't read it.
What do you expect him to say?
That's usually what John says. I did a thing. Oh, tell me about it. Becky really read it.
We don't have to get real deep into this because no one really, except actually it would leave Michael out, which is probably what we usually want to do. My favorite stories in that collection were 1408. The Dark Tower stories were fun on their own, but that I kind of categorized them as just part of Dark Tower canon, not part of the short story collection. And then the feeling that you can only say when it's in French, I think ended up being my favorite bit because I love timey-wimey nonsense bullshit. And when I first started listening to that short story, I was like, oh man, this is kind of fucking meh. But the more that it went on, I was like, and it was starting to click. I was like, oh fuck yeah. So it's going good. It also has made me realize that I really enjoy short stories.
Mm-hmm. And King's in particular, it really kind of was raved about Gore Vidal back in the day because that was kind of the master of the short story for me for a bit. And I really appreciated kind of what he engendered, and the stories actually had an overall meaning and arc to them. And King's short stories are an entirely different animal altogether because it's still very entertaining and the characterization and the development is still marvelous, but it's a bite-sized package. You're not spending 800 bloody pages getting into stuff because he has a tendency, like someone else who may or may not be on this podcast, to get, off topic and start just, foaming at the mouth, and then, as I'm doing now, rambling on incoherently for no good reason before you get back to the story a couple hundred pages later, and you're like, oh, Stephen, please, keep it compartmentalized. Please. Stay on point. Stay on topic. And the short stories the novellas really do a phenomenal job of that. It just gives you the bite-sized, sort of easily digestible story, and even at worst, like when they're long-winded, it's a couple hundred pages. I can bluster through it, but I really have been appreciating the hard case the smaller books that he's done. He just put one out this year, which is quite fantastic. But
what's it called?
That Later, I think, is the title.
Okay.
And so the story behind this, if you're not familiar, Michael Crichton's done some, but they're like noir detective novels. So it's kind of like pulp serialized stuff where they're telling stories. And so the one I read first is Joyland. And it's a story about a individual who, there's a ghost at an amusement park, and this person is the summer help at the amusement park, who then winds up staying on and trying to solve the mystery of the ghost. So it's like a Scooby-Doo episode brought to you by Stephen King. And the whole time he's talking about being obsessed with, he's reading The Lord of the Rings for the first time. The character is. So you see this interesting Dark Tower tributary that kind of runs through it as well, but then got me really back into the idea of reading The Lord of the Rings again, which is kind of organically how we all wind up in that same spot.
Which is part of my shuffle of books right now, which, yeah. Mm-hmm. That's cool.
Yeah, Melissa is halfway through The Lord of the Rings, Fellowship right now. And so she and I are probably going to dive into Two Towers when she catches up to me, because I haven't been reading as much lately. But
I have ramped back up because I have, I've said this hack, and I don't know if it's been on air or off air, and I know that I've said it at your house recently.
Oh, you've said it on air. It's there. It's a thing.
I decided, even though I own the 1-volume version of Lord of the Rings, I went ahead and bought the ebook paired with the Audible narration, because I have accepted much like Courtney, that like listening is a lot easier right now than sitting down and reading, even though I really, 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 really love to sit down and read. I'm in my car more than I can sit on my couch at the present moment.
Yep.
Which I have two more things, and then I'm done. Oh, I'm done.
Don't lie. It's books on the go, though, and it's a wonderful way to take it, because we're busy people these days, and we need to be able to still get information and not just be bored to tears in traffic.
Yeah. So I realized I love short stories, and then I remembered that pre-COVID I had started listening to Joe Hill's Strange Weather, which is a collection of 4 short novels. And after talking to Shane last week, because we met up for practice, immediately when I got in the car, I borrowed it from Libby and started listening to it again, and I'm having a lot of fun with that.
It's so good.
Also, just in one of the random 3-4 a.m. late night shit, I rewatched Clerks and then realized that I wanted to watch all of Kevin Smith's movies in order. And I've watched Chasing Amy now for the first time front to back, and I have mixed feelings about it. We're not going to get into it. But I stumbled on something really interesting, because the next movie that came after Chasing Amy, it's where I'm at now, is Dogma, which is, especially if you grew up in any sort of religion, but in particular
Catholicism,
which I did,
yeah.
It's a very fucking entertaining movie, timeless even. However, it is no longer available on any streaming services. You can't pay to rent it online. You can only watch that movie if you have a physical copy. And I know that you can torrent it, and I know that you can find rips of it on YouTube somewhere if you look. But it's really fascinating to me, the reason why. And I think Shane, do you know the reason why?
I don't know the reason why, in point of fact.
Because of the Weinsteins.
Okay.
Really?
Because Dogma came out in 1999.
Mm-hmm. And Disney was involved.
And Harvey Weinstein, Stein, whatever, he's a fucking piece of shit.
Yeah.
Him and his brother bought the rights for Sony, I think it was it Sony and Disney?
So they started out with Miramax initially. And then they kind of became disenchanted with their own thing, so they broke off and did the Weinstein Company and started their own thing, which is where Tarantino's later films wound up being released as well, so it's this whole weird dichotomy. But this was during that transition, and so initially when they went to release the film, as you were saying, yeah, Disney kind of swooped in and helped them with distribution.
Right. So at the very base of it, and to make shorter work of it, 2 different people or 2 companies handled the theatrical release and then the home release, and this is all pre-streaming. That agreement has since expired, and obviously things have happened, and the rights are kind of locked and buried. So there's really not much that can be done to get it onto streamable services. Which I thought was really, it's the dumbest, silliest, tiny, mini thing to be obsessed about. But I read, maybe 2 or 3 articles, just what the fuck? Even Kevin Smith was responding to people tweeting, being like, hey, man, I want to support you. I want to make sure that you get, I want to give you my money, but you're making it very hard for me to give you my money. Because the only other option is to buy a used copy at this point, because I don't think they're making more, and I think the copies that you can find are $100.
This is why I own physical media, and I'm happy to be the digital dinosaur that everybody mocks, but that's the whole point. I
figured you'd get a nice, good kick out of it.
You know me. I'm waiting for that moment to happen.
Let's see.
Ooh-wee.
Oh, you know what? It's not that bad. Never mind. It's not 100. Oh, wait.
I was like, I think you can probably still find,
a DVD for $40. A used copy for $60, but still, you have to really like the fucking movie to spend $60 on it.
You really, but honestly, it is probably taken the top seat in my Kevin Smith oeuvre. It's probably my favorite film of his. Chasing Amy was for quite some time, but yeah, I think I prefer Dogma these days. It's brilliant.
Yeah, I can't wait to watch it now that I really love shit.
Indeed. Well, you can borrow my copy, John.
Bless
I won't
you.
make you spring $60 in order to enjoy it.
Do you want to start a new segment on this show? Let's start a segment called What is Currently Being Lent to John from Shane. So
yeah, what is John stolen from my house?
On today's segment of
I like
What
it.
Am I Returning to Shane Before I Get Dogma, I will return your copy of Insidious Chapter 2.
I appreciate
and
that.
I will return your copy of Tusk.
Which you better have watched with Becky, or I'm gonna exact some pain from you.
I think Becky would rather have a legitimate child with Doug Ducey before she would watch Tusk.
Whoa! Damn!
That woman
I mean,
has...
both of them would produce a disgusting, byproduct of man and an animal being fused in some way, shape, or form.
She would rather look up into Doug Ducey's eyes as he whispered down, "This is heaven," than watch Tusk. This woman has the strongest. I fucked this woman up by making her watch this movie, and I don't even know. Like, I sometimes when it's really late at night, and I'm left with just my thoughts, dark or otherwise, I think about if the circumstances were different, and I had explained what this movie really was before she watched it, if it would have fucked her up as bad as it did. And it keeps me up.
I thought you were going to go darkest timeline, and if I ever really wanted to ensure I got divorced, I would just wake her up in the middle of the night with two giant tusks shoved into the corners of my mouth and just start going...
She's listening right now. She's listening, and I got a text. I feel like this is a very this is an indirect way of having her back on the show.
Yes!
She says, in all caps, yes. Next message. Doug Ducey can cover me in his ice cream rather than watch Tusk.
Spackle me, Doug. I don't know that there's a better way to nail the dismount on this show in particular, but Courtney, how you feeling?
Great.
We're just gauging your physical state at this point, so that
we don't want to get into that. That's not.
Okay, well, duly noted. Liquid shits are fun.
No, that sounds like a John problem.
I'm a solid shit now, but for 3 days it was all squirts.
Yeah, John wouldn't let me use his upstairs restroom because of the detritus that he left. Or apparently he just likes to, do a sprinkler in his bathroom, just point his ass up at the sink and hope that he hits it.
We're gonna ruin the dismount of the ice cream covered cake here. But when I am in a depressive episode where I take it out on my bathroom the most, like that's where all my trash goes. That's where everything goes. So if it's not if I am viciously depressed, like, bad that things depressed, my bathroom's probably looks like a dumpster. And I had just coming off an episode when Shane and Sam came over, and Shane's like, "Oh, fuck you, I'm gonna use your bathroom." I was like, I was like, use it. That would be the most embarrassing thing that could ever literally happen to me. And if you go into my bathroom, it's going to be an irrevocable moment in our friendship.
Well, John, you and I have shared a cheese sandwich more than once. And you and I have shared a toilet together at one point as well. And that's far more intimate than WrestleMania.
Yeah, that's fair.
True.
Is that a conversation you recall having?
Which one?
The that's far more intimate than WrestleMania?
Yeah. That was our first EP.
Okay. Yeah, we were in recording an album, and I was embarrassed to say that WrestleMania was occurring on the day that we were in recording, and I was really excited to go home and watch it later on, and I had still not really come out of the closet to the full depths of I still watch wrestling occasionally just to remind myself how god-awful this is. And yeah, that was John's exact line. It's like, we've shared a toilet together, Shane. Like, that's far more intimate than WrestleMania.
You know that thing when someone tells you their pet peeve and all of a sudden, like, you've just, like, internalized it and now it's your pet peeve? There is nothing that horrifies me more than someone coming to my home and the bathroom being gross. Like, that terrifies me. Like, I will leave dishes in the sink, but, like, the bathroom's not clean, I'm having a full-out panic attack.
You are in very good company then, because that was something that Shane and I connected on very early. Was a appreciation for cleanliness, especially in the restroom, which is why I made it a point when they were over to say, you are using the bathroom downstairs, you are not using this restroom.
That is one of the, like, literal first conversations that you and I each had the first time we walked into one another's apartments when we first started hanging out. I was like, kudos on how clean your bathroom is, man. I'm very impressed, because most people's look like, old Yarnum, like, post the spread of the rot, as I've described Sam's restroom.
There's a pugilistic panda hanging up on the wall.
And someone puked on the bathtub balls.
Michael.
I cleaned before that happened.
You cleaned before you threw up on the bathroom balls?
Oh my god.
No, I cleaned before anyone else stepped foot in that bathroom.
Well, if anyone's gonna fuck my cousin, it's gonna be me.
With a hangover.
On that subject, we're going to stray away from cousin fuckery. So I think we've come to a positive place at the end of this, the 91st installment of Disinformed, which is, we're reaching quite a threshold here, friends and neighbors, and we are appreciative of you for being here with us.
Yes. Unless you're Doug Ducey, in which case I wish you a very happy, merry, go die.
Go commit, die, Doug
Go
Ducey.
die.
I mean, we have, I've already said things on this podcast that are going to get me on any number of governmental watch lists, so I suppose I should say that for those in our state that are really wanting to support their right to keep and bear arms, I've got someone I'll point you at, because that motherfucker needs a 12-gauge sandwich sometime real soon.
It will smell like
And
teen
how.
spirit.
Indeed. So, thank you, douchey. We can't wait to flush you. Ladies and germaphobes, thank you for being here. As always, of course, we have got social networks that you can give as much credence and responsibility and attention to as we do, because Michael doesn't even know where they are. And
What's a technology?
Where am I?
what year is it?
How can I see you through my computer screen?
So, stay away from Facebook.com/Disinformed Podcast, or stay away from Instagram at Disinformed Podcast, even though Courtney does beautiful things with it on the weekly.
I give up.
Clapping.
Yeah, welcome to my world, friend.
First thing you gotta do.
And then, of course, over there on the Twitters, we have at Disinformed Pod, which you should actively avoid. And then furthermore, we may or may not be coming to you twice weekly on the Tubes of You going forward. That's a subject for another day. But Disinformed After Dark is usually taking place currently on Friday mornings, 10 a.m. Mountain Time. And, of course, fan fiction, typically flying your way on wonderful Wednesday mornings when Michael is not being put through a vice and I'm not on death's door and begging for admittance. So here's hoping that this week we might actually be able to revisit those things, if not for the last time.
Ooh-wee.
I kid. But I believe that is going to wrap it up, and we are going to mention that in a coming soon, we have actually got programming that is in the barrel and ready to roll down the pike at you. So there will be a part 2 to Colonel Sanders, and there is technically enough fodder from what I found for like parts 3 and 4.
Yes.
Yeah, I have 9 pages of Sanders research, and I still have not gotten to, I'm barely touching the franchising of KFC.
So,
that man is wonderful.
You know how you mess up programming is you space the shit out too far. So when you are ready to do it, it has to.
Oh, we'll do it next week. I'm totally down. We'll whip that
sequential. Out. You can't give weeks in between episodes. It has to be.
I shan't.
Just saying. The people need it.
I'm on it. I'm prepared. I have it. I'm in the process of throwing it together, so I think we can get it.
I'm ready to be chicken fingered by Daddy.
Awkward. And then Michael has a very interesting experiment that we are going to perform with a couple members of this show.
Oh, yeah. Well, don't give that up.
Explain it to him. Oh, no, come on.
That has to be a
You
surprise.
said it multiple times on air.
It's already been out of the bag, my friend.
Is it on air?
Yeah.
Yes.
What?
At
The
least
next Michael
once.
episode?
Yeah.
Oh, I think we did say it, yeah.
Okay, fine. The next time Michael presents, Courtney's going to be hanging out with me here, and we are going to do what every listener should do when it's a Michael episode, and we're just going to get baked. And we're going to see how that goes. I think, oh, Courtney, can you figure out how to make weed? Can you figure out how to make edibles? Like your own?
Yeah, I can do that.
Oh, Courtney.
Yeah.
Oh, Courtney, give me the keef.
I'm going to clip the fuck out of that shit. Oh, Courtney.
I hate my life.
Oh, John.
Oh, apparently John is running our Instagram.
All up the ante. Courtney and I will get high on her own supply and try and see if that enhances Michael's episode.
What if we die, though?
Good.
And I'm Michael.
Don't promise water to a thirsty man.
God.
Oh, Courtney. You did
it.
Actually,
Do you think...
Oh, go ahead.
Go. I was going to say, do you think that that Jonah and Becky would comfort one another?
No. Oh, Becky's like really hot. I don't know why she's with John to begin with, so.
Likewise.
Yeah, you and me both.
Oof. The big oof.
I know, who, could be the alternative Becky, though.
Galrilla Godot?
Indeed.
Aw, yeah.
Oh, she's wearing her necklace of
Linda.
torn off limbs.
You're welcome, Michael. I'm sorry. There's more editing for you.
Stop! I don't want to edit it.
Oh, yeah. Now.
Oh, Linda.
Okay, so before we get out of here, I am going to open this to Shane to make Michael's life easier or more difficult, depending on how Shane responds. Shane, would you like to give Michael a sample to use as the censor? Like, just you could say anything, and it would replace all of the times we say names that we shouldn't say on air.
It just has to be, oh, Courtney. I think we already have the clip.
Sure.
Okay, there we are. Or it could just be going, oh.
Oh, Courtney.
How about, oh, Linda.
I like that too. Yep. There, we gave Michael like 18 samples.
Yeah, I'm giving you a spectrum, yes.
And a moose boosh.
Who's Bush?
Oh.
Listen, you keep your cold soup to yourself, you frickin' fruitcake.
That was really
Forced
close.
divorce?
Ooh-wee.
Hey, bone ape tit.
Bone amp the teeth.
I got a chabless and a fillet mignon, and we're gonna bone ape tit. So all you out there in listener land, get ready, because the meat's coming.
Oh, yeah.
Biden be damned. I ain't letting the Hamburglar spoil my 4th of July. Marjorie Taylor Greene and I gonna go out there, get toe up from the flow up, and get us some of that big old bovine beef injection in our greedy little mouths. So,
Hashtag Burgergate.
for
Yeah, you're not.
Republicans,
Where am I? I don't even know what's going on anymore.
Courtney, you were saying before you lost consciousness.
Yeah, you're not going to catch me drinking that plant-based beer. I'll tell you what.
Motherfuckers.
Fuck that shit. Plant-based beer,
Real
my
beer
ass.
has
Did you see the
stem cells in it.
Did you see the Colbert joke about the meat-based beer that they created afterwards?
No.
No, but I drink it.
It's like beer like an abattoir. It's go check that out. It's really fun and quite entertaining. But all right. For the Republicans everywhere, I can't stand you, but I will defend your right to be an asshole to the death. So,
God bless America.
oh, Courtney. For the Disinformed podcast this week, strong as it ever was, back and better than ever, I'm Shane.
I'm John.
I'm Michael.
And I don't want to be Courtney anymore.
God, Mr. Pocket.
I'm gonna find you, Mrs. Dorothy.
I'm gonna find you. You goddamn monkey fuck, shoot me in the back. Follow me up the hill to the stream. Huh. God damn it, Courtney.
First time?
Final sidebar. Do you remember when I performed the... No, do you remember when I performed the Sweet Brown classic... Ain't Nobody Got Time for That as Tom Waits?
You put on so many voices. I prefer Brimley over Waits.
Well, in any event, if you're looking for something to entertain yourselves with, that is still on YouTube. It is me as Tom Waits performing Ain't Nobody Got Time for That. And it's a grand old time. So, love and kisses. And as I always say, so long. And good night, Mr. Pocket.
Oh, God, man.